But when reporters asked the billionaire how much ransom he would pay, his answer shocked the entire world. $0. This is a real elite kidnap case. Paul Getty was the world's richest man last century. He was the top of the global wealth list for 20 years. If he paid the $17 million ransom, the kidnappers would free his grandson fast. This amount was just a drop in the bucket for old Paul, but he acted like it was no big deal because he had 14 grandkids. If he paid ransom for one, the remaining 13 would inevitably get kidnapped as well. In 1948, old Paul bought a large chunk of land in the Middle East. He spent a decade investing heavily to build the world's largest oil tanker. Since then, old Paul has been called the king of oil around the world. The first to hit $1 billion. I'm not quite sure, but not running out of cash makes you a billionaire. But even with the mountain of gold, he never wasted a single penny. Spending an hour just to buy it at $11 to save a mere $2 service fee. He would even go to a laundromat several streets away. He washed the clothes himself. And what's worse, to stop staff from wasting call costs, old Paul removed all the landlines in the company. He only put in a payphone in the first floor lobby. His son and his family were raising 4 kids, so he was so poor he starved. Old Paul refused to give them a single cent, but out of life's necessity, the husband, following his wife's hometown, he wrote a plea to his rich father. To their surprise, old Paul actually sent them a reply. In the letter, he promised to find his son a job. The family rushed to seek help from old Paul. His mansion was filled with antiques and art. Every piece was a priceless treasure. But old Paul said, there's no such thing as something priceless. Everything can have its price. And what he's best at is measuring their true value. Even family bonds can be prized. Young Paul met Grandpa for the first time. Old Paul gifted him a $1 $2 million antique he buy for just $11. It's too much for a kid. Maybe for an ordinary child it's different, but the Getty kids are different. Old Paul doesn't care who the grandson is, he only cares if he's a Getty. My son.
It should be the wife. No, you're no longer the daughter of some local judge.
You're a Getty now. At dinner, the grandson reads letters for help from around the world. Each letter is a life or death matter, but old Paul has long been used to it. Dear Mrs. Broadus, if someone comes for cash, I'll help them all. I'll soon be as poor as you. Old Paul arranged a respectable job for his son, make him top of the oil firm, in charge of all of Europe, but that also means the son has to go to distant Morocco. Old Paul tells his grandson, the Gettys are the smartest around. He hopes to make his family a dynasty. As time went by, young Paul had grown up, but his idle father became an alcoholic, even sinking into drug addiction. Disheartened, his mother finally filed for divorce. Old Paul, to prevent her from thinking about his money, hired a whole team of lawyers. But unexpectedly for old Paul, the mother said she wouldn't take a dime, just want my son's custody. What tricks are you up to?
I don't want your money. Everyone wants my money. You want your money, I want my son. We both get what we need.
I feel like I've been cheated. I just can't see the trick. You're just too wary.
You can amass great wealth. It's because you're good at budgeting. You know how to make the best deals, mother's suggestion.
So old Paul couldn't find any excuse to refuse. But that night, young Paul, out for a stroll, was suddenly kidnapped. The kidnappers were very clear. If old Paul pays $17 million, they'll release the hostage at once. If it were anyone else, they won't joke with family wives. But when old Paul learned his grandson was kidnapped, he acted unfazed, busy with his stocks. I'm busy right now. Why'd you say, Mr. Getty?
Remember to close the door, Nancy.
Young Paul's kidnapping quickly shocked the nation. Old Paul had to face the media. He firmly stated he wouldn't pay a dime, but everyone knew old Paul was simply making excuses for his stinginess. Old Paul had to send trusted aides to handle the matter. Mark was a specialized bodyguard for the CIA. He's now old Paul's security consultant. He's great at negotiating for old Paul. Old Paul told Mark to return his grandson fast, but he emphasized this to spend the least amount possible. He still needs some money to come back alive. Of course. I just don't want you wasting money. As events became more explosive, the mother received kidnapping letters from around the world. They all claimed to be the kidnappers of young Paul. There were so many letters that the police couldn't check them one by one. Kidnapping the wealthiest man's grandson. It was a dream come true for them. Whenever mother went out, she would be harassed by strangers. They faked being kidnappers, asking her for ransom. Gradually lost their patience. They had young Paul write to his mom. If they didn't get the ransom soon, they would send one of his fingers. They had kidnapped the grandson of the world's richest man, but why wouldn't his grandfather pay up? At that moment, the woman made dinner, but as the kidnappers brought the food, young Paul inadvertently caught a glimpse of her face. This is a huge taboo for the kidnappers. If young Paul tells the other kidnappers about this, they'll surely silence him. The kidnappers instantly threatened Paul. They warned if he squealed, they would gouge out his eyes, wouldn't identify them anymore. I won't tell on you. And you can't tell on me. Thankfully, Paul escaped unharmed. That day, Mark was about to drive out. He was suddenly bumped by a car behind. A man gestured for him to follow. Thinking that he might be a kidnapper, Mark decided to follow him. Under the man's lead, Mark arrived at a dimly lit room. Some fake being kidnappers and rushed him to pay. However, this group was different from other imposters. It turned out that before young Paul was kidnapped, he had made a plan with them. Young Paul pretended to be kidnapped, then they demanded $2 million from old Paul. However, their plan hadn't even started yet when young Paul suddenly vanished. So they all believed that little Paul must have found other partners. That's why they wanted to get their money back. Home again, Mark immediately told his mother about it. He said this kidnapping was just a scheme designed by little Paul. But when old Paul learned of this, he wasn't surprised at all. After all, in his eyes, the entire world was after his wealth. Even his own grandson was no exception. But he was still angry about his family's deceit. I thought I could trust my kin. He's still young. Kids do foolish things. I'd aim to give him all my learning, my knowledge, and everything I've built. But he's just like that, just wanting my cash. Like those parasites. Always clinging to me. Old Paul never trusted anyone in his life, only trusted those lifeless antique paintings. At least art wouldn't betray him, so he preferred to spend lavishly on art rather than help his parasitic relatives. They're at least true to themselves. Never changing. Never disappointing. These are purely beautiful. I've never seen this in a person. The kidnapper has lost all patience. Saw he'd get the ransom in 2 or 3 days. Ended up taking care of little Paul for months. Still, not a penny has come. Little Paul calls out he needs the restroom. The kidnapper wears a hood and chains him. The kidnapper rolls up the hood to let him breathe. After little Paul is done, he forgets to pull the hood back down, resulting in little Paul clearly seeing his face. But sadly, it's too late. You saw my face. I didn't see anything. You saw my face. Stop lying. I swear I won't tell anyone. You can trust me. Another kidnapper shows up now. He learns his partner is exposed. He shoots his partner without delay. The next day, Mark gets a police call. They found little Paul's body in the woods. They ask him to bring his mother to it. Upon reaching the bedside, the mother trembles as she approaches the body. Fortunately, when she lifts the sheet, she instantly realizes it's a false alarm. She could tell by the size. It definitely wasn't young Paul's body, but it was a warning from the kidnappers. If they couldn't get the ransom again, the consequences would be dire. After a long police probe, the kidnapper gang was identified. They came fully armed to rescue young Paul. The armed team sneaked to the crook's den. The caught crooks were wiped out fast. But besides that, the police found nothing else. Young Paul was already taken away. Here, the mother found her son's discarded clothes. As the kidnappers couldn't get the ransom, they sold young Paul to a group of more ruthless kidnappers. Mark now saw how grave things were. He told old Paul he must pay the ransom real quick to guarantee young Paul's safety. But old Paul still didn't care about his grandson's fate. He didn't want to waste a penny on young Paul. Mark said these kidnappers were not ordinary. They were ruthless and calculating. They focused on gains and losses. They could do things that money can't fix. We have to pay. That's impossible. My finances have changed. Mark just can't figure it out. Just this morning, oil prices soared, and he earned a fortune.